Pillen announced his appointment of CEO for Nebraska's Health and Human Services Department, but the decision has been met with backlash before his appointee has even taken office.
6 News' Marla Lundak spoke with several state senators on the topic, and she has more for us tonight.
On social media, newly appointed Nebraska DHHS CEO Dr. Steve Coursey isn't shy about his views. He likes and reposts anti-gay and anti-trans rhetoric, along with posts that question COVID-19 vaccines and responses.
I hope that he will meet the standards that Warren Buffett uses of first integrity, second intelligence, and third energy. And he looks like he's has that potential.
Republican State Senator Murph Reepy of Ralston says after looking into Dr. Coursey's background, he believes he's well trained for the position. Coursey most recently served as CEO of the Central Wyoming Counseling Center. He's also previously been the CEO of the Missouri Department of Social Services and the Wyoming Department of Family Services. Democratic State Senator Michaela Cavanaugh of Omaha says she's anxious to sit down with Coursey and Pillen to learn more, but is already concerned.
A simple Google search does bring up some alarming questions about qualifications and really integrity and ethics. And I'm hopeful that the governor has done the due diligence of making those types of inquiries and getting solid answers as to why this is the right fit for Nebraska.
Cavanaugh believes the LGBTQ and trans community could be in jeopardy.
Any youth that identify in a way that is in conflict to how this gentleman believes may not receive the appropriate care and the quality care that they deserve to have. And so that's a huge concern.
And Reepy says despite your values in a role like this, it's important to meet the objectives of the job.
Hopefully that he's smart enough and wise enough to say, look, I'm willing to try to look at this and say what works for the state of Nebraska and the people of Nebraska.
In a statement to 6 News, Governor Pillen's office says, quote, Governor Pillen was elected because of his strong conservative values. He has now appointed someone who also has a strong conservative track record of competence and experience in state health and social services. On your side in Omaha, Marlo Lundak, 6 News.
Dr. Steve Coursey is expected to begin his new role with the department on September 11th.